Yo, what's up, everybody? If you haven't heard about Anchor, let me tell you, this is one of the easiest ways to make a podcast. First of all, it's free. Second of all, there's creation tools that allow you to record and edit the podcast right from your phone or computer. Third, Anchor will also distribute for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. Then you can also make money from the podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. Later.
Welcome to the Lion's Den with Seth, a podcast where progressive men and women can learn and teach each other the ways of the land. The Lion's Den is where royalty comes to council. Ladies and gentlemen, your host, Seth.
And a lot of people miss that piece from the person on the front line, at the lowest level, all the way to the highest level. Everybody has the ability and has the responsibility, at least in our business, to be a leader. Whether if it's with their family, their nuclear family, wife, children, or even just being a part of their bigger family with parents, brothers and sisters and whatnot. The other thing I want to talk about is to just lay some foundation is one of the things I talk about is there's three components of what we do as leaders, and that's responsibility, that's authority, and accountability. Those are components of being a leader and being responsible for whatever it may be career field wise. In addition to that, as leaders, we are caretakers. It's our job to take care of the people that we lead, airmen, civilian, whatever it is. If they're a part of your organization, your job is to also be a caretaker. And with that, that's where I want to go with this, is staying connected. Since COVID-19 has hit, we have changed the way we do business. Folks are teleworking, they're not coming into the office. A lot of folks, mission essential folks are coming into the office, but we're finding that more and more folks are working from home due to this crisis and pandemic. So one of the things we have done here at my wing, and to ensure that we take on that role as caretakers seriously, is to find creative ways to stay connected with our teams. And with that, when we say stay connected, everybody says social distancing. We have changed the vernacular to say physical distancing, but we want to stay socially connected. And how we do that is we use the platforms everybody else is using right now, Zoom, they're using Teams, Adobe Connect, Facebook, Instagram. There's so many platforms. So there's no excuse to lose connection with your people. Some of the things we do once a week or twice a week, actually, on my team is we have themed Zoom meetings. So we meet with everybody in the office. They come on Zoom and they're themed. So last week we had a motivational speaker that works over here at the leadership development course here at Maxwell come on and talk about ways to be effective and connect with folks while you're in this isolated period where folks are teleworking. And he made us draw out a triangle, and triangle had to do with things that you need to do, your to-do list. Who do you need to talk to get that thing done? And then what are you doing to stay connected with those individuals outside of the transaction of doing work? Because what we want to do is leave every conversation we have with folks, we want to leave that conversation and they feel empowered and they feel that they are valued to you, the organization, and whatever they do occupationally. So we had one of those, and then we had one where you just had to wear your favorite hat. And then when you got on, you wore your favorite hat. When it was your time to talk, you had to explain why it was your favorite hat and why it was dear to you. In addition to that, we did on Zoom, everybody did a background, and we had to explain why that background was our background. And the key here is we talk about work in different telecons and meetings or whatever, but in these Zoom meetings, the rule is we're not going to talk about work. We're going to talk about how everybody's doing, what's important to them. And you'll find that even though we're in this response to the pandemic and people are home and isolated and self-isolated, quarantined, life is still going on. People are stressed because their kids at home and they got to be a school teacher, and there's homeschooling is rough on them. Folks are still dealing with depression, and even more so because they're isolated. So it's our job as caretakers to keep reaching out to folks to make sure we have a true, real connection with those individuals, whether it's through a screen, a telephone call, or, one of the things we do is we continue to reach out to our airmen in the dorm, and we kind of have a outside dorm meetings because we have some balconies on our dorm, and they just come out on the balcony, and our chief and the first sergeants engage with them out there in the courtyard in the dorms. So we're doing everything possible to stay connected to airmen and their families and ensure that folks are getting what they need. Any questions at this time? I can expound from you all.
Right on. Well, look, that's outstanding, and I'm glad that you guys have took the initiative to be innovative when it came down to being connected. And everybody that's watching here live, please give a shout out what base you're at, or give your zip code, area code, to let us know that you're actually tuned in and you're listening. Hey, Herm, you got a question, brother? Go ahead, hit him up.
I do. How you doing, sir? Hey, so first thing I want to say is we're going to let you slide with the wrong UT flag up there. You know what time it is. Only UT is Tennessee on this show. But a question I do have for you is the difference between analog leadership and digital leadership. Are we seeing a trend now or a curve now where this is kind of exposing the older generation's unfamiliarity? Forgive my countryness, of the use of digital technology when it comes to leadership, since we're seeing a lot of people work from home nowadays.
Okay, so I'm going to first address that UT comment. So how many national championships Tennessee got?
Oh,
shots fired.
Look at his face. Look,
we got 6.
6? What? Who gave y'all that national championship? The Hoboken Times? I mean, come on, really? If Texas counted all the national championships some podunk newspaper gave them back in the 50s or whatever, we'd have 21. But bona fide national champions 5 times. Also, top winning record in college football in history. There's only, I think, 3 programs that have a better record than University of Texas. That would be USC, Notre Dame, and Alabama. Only 3.
Could have sworn Michigan was, but it's okay.
Michigan may, but I'm sure that might be it. Ohio State. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, Tennessee ain't in that conversation. Matter of fact, when's the last time Tennessee won the SEC East? And I'm gonna leave it there.
Sir, can you answer my question, please?
No, you see, look. Hey, you know what, sir? Hey, you know what? We're going to have you on because ain't too many people that can shut him up. You get what I'm saying? And that did it.
I've had years of practice.
Yeah, right. But yeah. So to his point, that makes sense. So with the analog and the digital, do you see individuals not just struggling, or are they using that as an excuse?
So there is no excuse. I will say that. If you're a senior leader, you got enough folks around you that can work out your your lack of ability to work digital equipment and whatnot. I will tell you, my sons keep me kind of, they're young men, 20, 23 and 24. They kind of keep me in on the Instagram and all that stuff. So I'm kind of familiar with it. But my boss, the wing commander here, he's not on social media, and this kind of was new to him. But we got him, we did some training, we did some OJT with him, and got him squared away. So it's not an excuse to not connect with. Matter of fact, we talked about this before we came on the show, is that actually being in this environment has given me more time and opportunity to reach out and connect with folks than when I'm in the office, and you will find that when we come out of this and we get to the new abnormal, there's a lot of things we used to do that we won't do anymore. And platforms like this have shown us that it is possible to get productivity from folks if they're at home, if they're not in the office, and still get the mission done. So you're going to see some things here in the near future, but there are some leaders that will hang on to the analog way of leading, and because they're stuck in what is comfortable for them, and a lot of times, even leaders sometimes are not the best with change, and being able to deal with change. Especially dynamic change, as this has shown us we've had to be able to adapt to.
And I see that. And from your point of view, do you think that it has, job security has anything to do with it? Because it requires a certain skill, not digitally analog, but now digitally, individuals have there's less amount of barriers to do the things that they need to do. You get what I mean? So, let's say I need to reach out to the wing commander. Obviously, I won't just hit him up on Facebook and say, hey, but there is an outlet there. And so from your point of view, do you think that this will minimize that job security, or would they just have to rearrange the way that they're thinking about how they're effective?
So that's a very good question, and based on that question, I'm gonna have to say something real quick. I'm gonna have to give the caveat. I am Col Jerime Reid, but I am not representing the 42nd Air Base Wing, and my views are not those of the United States Air Force.
Okay. There we go.
Citizen Jeremy Lamont Reid, and we will now deal with that question.
There we go.
What you will find with a lot of leaders, and not all, but a good number of leaders, is they have been able to be successful by being risk adverse. Okay. So when you have gone through your career and you have been successful as a model, being risk adverse, being a digital leader or using digital technology as a leader, as you say, breaking down those barriers, is one more area of risk, right? If you remember when Facebook first came on, you had leaders running for Facebook. Mm-hmm. Because what they didn't want is their airmen to see them as human beings. They wanted to see them as the boss, right? But the boss is a title. Commander's a title, but when somebody looks at you as a leader, it's a privilege.
Wow. Yes. That's deep. Yep. There it is.
So when you start breaking down walls, people have these facades and they have these faces when they come into the office or their place of work, and they think that they have to be that person, and they're not authentic. And guess what happens when you get a peek into my real life through Facebook or whatever I'm putting out there? Oh, that person's not the person I thought that individual is.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had leaders that I thought were one way, and then and you get a peek under the tent. You're like, wait a minute. Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. and being a man of color, we're gonna deal with some of that, and being diversity and inclusion discussion. Sometimes, you learn that people that you work for or in your leadership chain are participating in things that let you know that you are not on the forefront of their list of folks that they want to promote and mentor and push along. So
very well put. Very well put. You hold on. Look, I got to give
see
you.
how strategic that was?
That was beautiful. That was beautiful because you said everything that a 20-year-old me would not have been able to say. You get what I mean? And not just that, not just a 20-year-old me, 20 to younger airman ages, because they see this and they know this. And to your point, by putting yourself out there, you are exposing the truth and everything that you were hiding behind within your uniform. Right? That's wow. That's amazing. Hold on, look, we got a question though. Man, that's deep. Go ahead, Larry. What you got, brother? Go ahead, unmute yourself.
Man, this guy here, man, he's bringing it.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm gonna stage my question like this, right? I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason, to include this COVID-19. I think this was a shock for the world to wake up and get out of our days that we're in, and for true leadership to really come to the forefront. So my question to you is, what are your thoughts about during this epidemic or during any crisis where you start to see true leadership show, and those who you thought was a leader kind of fall back by the wayside? I know you kind of touched on it, but from where you sit at right now, what is your thoughts on that? Because I'm sure you're seeing it. You're seeing true leaders, and then you're starting to see those who you thought was a leader, but kind of fall back by the wayside during this crisis, but they weren't prepared for it.
Oh, no, you're exactly right. Crisis actually, crisis and challenge are the crucibles of leadership, right? If I don't put you under some heat, if I don't put you under some pressure, I don't really know who you are in a challenging environment. I've had officers tell me this, but let me handle that, and then I'm gonna jump to something else. You will see who is true blue, a real leader, and who's not through this pandemic. Okay, and you will see the individuals who are not risk averse, who will make decisions, who will lead from a perspective of being a caretaker. And I'm gonna get to something real quick. Friend of mine, been in the news as of late. Okay, Captain Brett Crozier, the captain of the Theodore Roosevelt. Regardless of your politics or anything else, and I think the Navy actually have made a move to reinstate him after the investigation. I've had the chance of spending 6 weeks at Joint Forces College with him and JPME 2, Joint Professional Military Education 2. It's primarily how we establish how we do joint planning, the joint planning process of senior leaders. When I met Brett Crozier, the first thing I would tell anybody is phenomenal leader, connects with everybody. Okay, connects with everybody, and ain't no punk. Okay, so the decision he made was a risk, and he knew there were consequences, but he put his sailors in front of his occupational prestige, his possibility to be an admiral in the near future, because if you're a captain on a carrier, you're pretty much going to be an admiral. He put all that on the line to take care of sailors. That's a leader. Other folks would have made some different decisions. Not push to dock, not push to get people tested. And you see, he was proved right, because in the fact that there's over 700 people that came off of that boat that were positive. So outside of all that, that's a leadership. I want to say test case or a case study, better choice of words, and seeing what I believe, and this is my belief, what true leadership looks like.
Wow, man.
At the end of the day, here's what, and this is what I was going to get to, is when you're in the military attracts people who like titles and position. Why is that? It's a rhetorical question, but y'all can jump in if you want to. Why is that?
I think at some point, at some time, there may just be a little bit of insecurity. Okay, there may be insecurity to a degree, right? So all depends.
I'm not even gonna go that deep.
Okay, so other than that, they want to.
Position is worn on your shirt,
so people can see it. That's what I mean.
Yeah, people can see it.
That's what I mean. That's exactly what I mean. Because if you don't believe it here, you need something to show that you are who people say that you are. That's my thought. That's my thought.
And then that becomes important for you, right? That becomes important for you, and then that is what your focus is, not your airmen, not an airman big A, not their families, not their health and safety. Your career becomes more important because you are defined by how far you get, right? I have to have this conversation with young officers all the time. They feel like they're a failure if they don't make colonel, right? And I say, hey, squadron commander, lieutenant colonel is a successful career, because here's the reality. It takes 100 second lieutenants to make one colonel. So when you make colonel, you're the 1%. In a pool of individuals which is tough competition, our enlisted corps, our officer corps are some of our nation's best and brightest. So you're competing against a tough pool of folks. It's like playing in the SEC. Every week and every time you come out and put your efforts out there, you got somebody standing next to you that went to the Air Force Academy, Notre Dame, Yale, Harvard, Texas, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, all these places, right? And then we make them take a qualifying test that's tougher than the SAT. Then you got to be able to run a mile and a half under 13 minutes. You got to be able to pee in a cup and it not come up hot. So there's a lot of gates to what we do, right? So it weeds a lot of folks out. So the people, when you get to the nitty gritty, you're dealing with the best of the best, the creme de la creme. And a lot of our young airmen don't realize that.
Wow. Hey, you know what? And that's real.
They've gone through just to get here, to qualify.
But you know what, though, sir? And I want to get to Will's question, but it seemed as though the certain individuals in the military, we could say certain cultures as far as AFSCs, they want to exude humbleness in the individual. So I may come in after basic, after tech school or whatever, and I get to my job. Hey, I know my job. Oh, I'm ready, because obviously I need training, right? But I'm ready. I'm ready to give my all to the military. But when you have individuals that have certain dispositions for themselves, they're going to, they can push. No, well, you're not that great. Right. And then throughout that time, and then you get passed over, you get looked down upon, and then now you create a sense of unworthiness. Even no matter what the numbers say, because we know how elite the Air Force is to other armed forces, but within our own community, we don't get that same type of affirmation.
But not just elite among the other armed services, elite in society as a whole.
Yes.
Okay. But you're right. But once again, it comes back to insecurity as leaders. I will use an example. There was a young man, y'all may know him, may not, that I met in Korea about 13, 14 years ago. He knew his job. Okay. But because he knew his job, he continuously was stunting. Okay. And that'd be Mr. Herman Brown.
Look at him. Look at him.
Let me tell you this.
You talk about getting put under a fire. He did that to me, but I'm gonna let him go ahead.
But here's the thing. I'm proud of Senior Master Sergeant Brown, right? Because back then he was Senior Airman Brown. He's Senior Master Sergeant Brown now. And people would say, hey, that kid, he ain't nothing but bad news, or he just a hard head, this, that, and the other. But that's because you could see he had talent and he had a way with people to be able to communicate and get things done. And it was a threat sometimes to them. And they were tech sergeants and master sergeants, right? So then they started picking on him. And I saw it. And I was like, hey, wait a minute. What you're doing is not fair to this young airman. And Herman will tell you, I called him on the carpet. Some folks actually wanted to physically fight me over it.
Wow. Is word up? Wow.
Hey, that's absolute fact. When he left, after he got through, mentoring us, I'm gonna say that he got through mentoring us. The tech sergeant was a little bit shaken up. The whole time that then Captain Reid was there, he was shook up and about to start crying. As soon as Captain Reid left, he was like, "Man, I just want to whoop his ass." I was like, "Hey, that's not the energy you gave off the whole time he was there." You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you didn't get.
But when you leave, I'll be talking again.
Right.
But here's the thing: it wasn't about me flexing as the officer, right? What I knew is I had an individual who was talented. And what you don't do, have y'all watched The Last Dance? Have y'all been watching that about the Bulls?
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about Dennis Rodman.
Right.
And Chuck Daly says, you don't put a saddle on a Mustang.
That's right. That's right.
You let him run, right? You keep him in some confines and say, this is where you can run, but you don't put a saddle on him. You don't try to ride. A lot of leaders try to put saddles on folks that have energy and talent and hold them down, and they're really doing the organization a disservice. Okay? Mm-hmm. One thing leaders do that irks me all the time is they want to duplicate themselves.
Yeah. Facts. Big facts.
I don't need you to be me. I need you to be you because I don't see everything. I don't have your perspective. I don't have your background. You may bring some things to the table that I wouldn't have never considered in my life. So when I build a team, I'm trying to build a diverse team of individuals of thoughts, minds, backgrounds, all of those things. Why? Because it makes us better as a whole. And more importantly, as a leader, I give you resources, I give you what the goals and objectives are, and then I get out your way.
Mm-hmm. Empowerment.
Mm-hmm. And then I ask you, what do you need when you run into a wall?
That's right.
But too many leaders want to duplicate themselves because if it's not the answer they would have come up with, somehow inherently it's wrong. And that's not the case. There's an infinite way of solving problems.
Damn. Oh, man, hold on. Well, you know what? This I wasn't ready for this. Yo, hey, I was not ready for this. Herm, I wasn't ready for this, brother, but I think we needed this. Seriously. I really did. And you know what? I'll tell you this too, Colonel, because we're going to go to Will, but I wish I had that type of energy and leadership earlier on in my career, but I'm also glad that it's still here. So in my mind that there's still hope. You get what I mean? Because to your point, you can't recreate who you want people to be. Let them be great in their own skin. I appreciate that. That's 100. Go ahead, Will. What you got, bro?
First off, I'm going to say thank you for your transparency because I think this was missing in today's force. The realistic conversations that take place at smoke pits, on social media, in your cars, but not in the presence of everybody that really needs to hear that. So hats off to you. earlier you talked about leaderships losing connection during this pandemic. But what when that leadership never established that connection? Now you're distant. What do you do? And this is more so for mentorship to leaders that never took the time to learn their force, to learn their people, to care enough about who they are. Now you're forced to use technology to communicate with them and establish a rapport that you never did from the get up. What can you say to those leaders?
If nothing else, this should show you proof positive why you need connection. Because a lot of times leaders at my level, we leave the care and feed into other folks. Between us and where the rubber meets the road. But this shows proof positive that you need to have those connections, because now you feel awkward when you're trying to reach out to folks
Right.
on a Zoom meeting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to have, trying to get people involved by having them wear their favorite hat, right? So we did the favorite hat. I wore my fishing hat. That's my place. That's my sanctuary, is going fishing, right? But there's stories about that, because when I have that hat on, it means I'm probably somewhere tropical in the sun, enjoying nature, right? Other people wore hats because they were Alabama fans. Other people wore hats because it was the hat that they bought when they were deployed or whatever. But here's the key. Most of those stories I already knew.
That's the point.
So then in the conversation, just like we're having, I could then pull threads, right, to further the conversation that I may know someone else may be going through something personally, like a sick relative, or having ideations of suicide, that are on my team, because I know this is going on, but I could pull a thread, and it's not coming from me. It's somebody that may have gone through that or been close to a situation like that. I can pull that thread. And guess what I say? Oh, by the way, hey, everybody on this Zoom meeting, you all have each other's contact. If there's something that you want to talk about privately or whatever, please reach out to those individuals. They're willing to talk to you and help you out.
That's simple. Wow.
We need more leaders with your transparency and your direct approach to things that need to happen, especially as it relates to diversity. Because I think that as we discussed before, when people don't experience things for themselves, it's hard for them to fathom and understand how it impacts other people. So now you have a lot of individuals that are here now going through things, and they feel like they're by themselves because no one has tried to relate to how they receive information, nor how they learn. They just kind of throw the towel in on them and say, hey, you shouldn't be here. We're throwing away a valuable asset.
So I'll tell you this. I'll just talk about me real quick, and then we'll kind of get to a diversity talk also. I'm probably built for this age, right? Because I grew up watching a lot of TV, and I got a boatload of degrees and whatnot, but I hate to read books.
He do too. Look at her. yo, this dude.
But notice I caveated that. Books. Now, I read what I have to read or I need to read, but I grew up watching TV, and I get more information from a great documentary. My wife thinks I'm the biggest nerd ever because I watch Earth, Blue Earth, space, all those things. And as a kid, that was my window to the world, was seeing it on TV. Now, what the Air Force has given me is the opportunity to go to those places, actually see it with my own eyes and put my feet on ground. But I will tell you, I read a lot of journals, I read a lot of magazines, but I like just getting into a book and reading a book. If it's not an autobiography or something along those lines, I'm not, and I don't like fiction, believe it or not. So, but usually I read autobiographies because I'm interested in what makes human beings tick. And everybody's different, right? But they get to success on different paths. But what you learn is they have common threads.
Yes.
And that is, believe it or not, the ability to connect with people.
Wow. You know what? It's so simple. It's that simple. And not just being able to connect with people, just having the will to want to. Right. And I really do believe this removes that barrier. This truly removes that barrier because we need to check on our people. So how are you checking on your people? Seriously, you can't use that same excuse anymore. I don't have time. You got all the real time in the world.
And Liz, you just so ate up. When you're on the Zoom meeting and you're teleworking, the uniform's not on. That's why I mentioned it earlier. So it's not Colonel Reid. You don't see the eagle. You don't see the chief with all those chevrons. You see the individual, and it's in a different context.
Yeah.
So it like you said, it takes barriers down.
Yes. It's kind of like a deployment. It's kind of like a deployment. You know, when you're going through something with your team, it's like, man, you know, you guys go to chow together, right? You start asking each other about your family because you're going through the same experience together. This, to certain individuals, can be very traumatic. And the main thing that I believe we need is humility. Okay, within that connectivity, connectiveness, but be human. Like, hey, I'm feeling this too. I may not understand from your optics, but I'm feeling it as well. Right. So we got another question. Herm, go ahead. What you got, bro?
So, sir, we about to hit on another historic milestone in the Air Force with the General Brown nomination. And being a black officer yourself, I just want to know what your personal thoughts are about that now.
I am uber proud. I've had an opportunity to be in the room with General Brown a number of times, and he is going to blow your mind at how good he is. Okay. And the key to this conversation is that although he is now the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, our work is not done, because folks will say, well, you've had a black chief. So what else would you guys want?
Right. Like it's a handout. I'm sorry. Go ahead. To your point. Go ahead.
So it's not over. The maturation is not over. There needs to the key is when we really get to the point where diversity and inclusion is not an issue, is when you have a black chief and nobody talks about it being the black chief.
That's it right there.
Where it happens so often and commonplace that it's not a novelty, or people are like, oh, what do we expect from this chief? I've been doing this for almost 23 years now, right? And we've had chief after chief after chief, and there's some angst about how they're going to handle business, but for the most part, I see there's a lot of anxiety and anxious energy in the Air Force after the announcement, and saying, "Oh, how is this gonna work out?" Well, let me tell you, it's going to work out well.
Period.
Because he is a phenomenal leader.
Very good. Right on.
And just and has all the credibility in the world across the joint force. So I think and just level-headed decision making. Not that that any other chiefs before him weren't. But I'm just telling you, the Air Force is gonna, the needle in the Air Force is gonna move with him in the leadership. So
right
just
on.
as it did with General Goldfein, I will tell you, General Goldfein really has done a lot from his position when it comes to diversity and inclusion. But like I said, the work is not over, because as a black male, I sit in a particular position and I have a particular perspective, because most of the black general officers I see are black males, right? Or when you talk about diversity as in ethnic or race diversity, it's typically black males, a few Latino males, and a few Asian males. But the tough part is for our ladies, right? Did you all know, when was the last time active duty, because Stacey Harris is reserve, when was the last time the Air Force promoted a black female to 1-star general?
I have to Google that one.
Not the Air Force.
2001.
Wow.
That's when I
19
came.
years ago.
Wow.
Are you telling me that there's not enough talented black female officers in the Air Force that we can't get a general in 19 years? And not get a general, but have someone promoted to general in 19 years, because there are qualified ladies out there
Absolutely.
that have the ability, have the skills, but don't get the opportunities.
Right. Absolutely
So
right.
that's what I mean by the work is not done. Do not let that discussion fall because we have an African American chief of staff of the Air Force.
Wow. And so Larry got a question, but I do want to ask something. You could table it, but in the future, or how far off in the future do you see a female Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force? That's just something just to think about, like if we're ready for that. I believe we are, but do you think the Air Force is ready for that? You know?
Yes. Why wouldn't the Air Force be ready for it? Some of the best chiefs that I've worked with, I don't say work for me, but the best chiefs I worked with have been female chiefs. Here's the other thing: leadership don't have no prerequisite on gender, race, or ethnicity. Leaders are leaders.
Right.
So the market is not cornered by one particular group. And here's the thing, and I believe the Air Force would accept it and be the better for it. But yeah, I think the Air Force is ready, more than ready for it. I think we are overdue. To be honest, way over.
I didn't dig it. Hey, Larry, you got a question, brother? Go ahead.
I do. Hey, it's me again, man. Oh my goodness, I'm trying to soak in all this knowledge that and all these gems that he's dropping down right now. So my question is to you, for me, but anybody that's listening, really. The guys will tell you that I've been at a crossroads. I've been looking at crossing over to the O side. Took the Air Force qualifying test and all that, made the passing scores. But my biggest hiccup was I didn't know what the LIMFACs was as far as me mentoring and still connecting with the young airmen because of all the fraternization, all that, the different UMCJ rules that go in there. So for you, as speaking from an officer that's only done officer and the entire time he's been in the military, what do you say to those that out there that are kind of hesitant as far as being able to go from the enlisted to the officer, but still wanting to keep that connection with the enlisted, especially the young airman side of the house? What is your thoughts on that?
So this is how I did it. I made sure I was in their space. A lot of and what I mean by in their space is this, like you say, people talk about fraternization and all those things. I wasn't at the club with my airmen. I wasn't hanging out after hours with my airmen, but I truly believe in leadership by walking around. So when I say I was in their space, when Herman was in the storeroom, I went and talked to Herman in the storeroom. I didn't have Herman come to me because there's too many barriers to get to me as the officer, right? But Herman will tell you this. I'm a services troop, and then they merged us into four support officers, but I'm a services troop, blue and blue. I mean, true blue. And Herman will tell you, I can go in the kitchen and prepare a meal as well as any tech sergeant, staff sergeant in the services career field.
So that's the point.
Everybody except me.
See, you see that, but no, and that's the point though. Being able to do the same work, right. At least to have that credibility is what I'm gathering,
and not afraid to be exposed in some of those situations, right? Because you got to learn too. But you being prime listed, you kind of got a leg up. And I saw you, Corey. I see you out there. You have a leg up because you do have that credibility, and then you know how to go find airmen and be in their space. You can be in their space at work and be one of the team. And that's easy. That's easy. So do not stop your trek and wanting to come over to the old side. And then I'll be frank with you. I want you over here. I need you over here. I need folks that understand what leadership is and can inspire young airmen to be their best, and then duplicate your ability to cross over and then lead again. Because what you want to do is, I said, officers often and leaders want to duplicate themselves. All I need you to do is duplicate your energy. I want my energy duplicated, right? My enthusiasm duplicated. I don't want me cloned. I don't need a bunch of Jerime Reids running around. I need a Will. I need a Larry. I need a Seth. I need those people to be who they are, but in those leadership positions and at the table to have the tough, hard discussions, because they've been through it, they understand it, and they're savvy enough to have the right discussion at the right time.
Wow. Hey, so Larry, hey, how you feel? You want to go for it, brother?
Hey, man. I mean, he got me open. And just so you know, so my guy's tuning in, Chief Blackwell, he says he know he worked with you. I don't know if you remember that name, but I remember from my security forces days. So he gave me a big
Chief is here with us right now. Chief, good people.
Right on, right on.
One of my mentors, man. So it's a small Air Force, but hey, Chief, Colonel, I'm gonna take your word for it. I'm gonna get at it, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, if you lose connection with young airmen, that's on you.
Absolutely. Hey, so let me put this out here, though, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys want to call and ask the Colonel a question, just reach out. The numbers below is 618-792-6747. Again, the number is 618-792-6747. Colonel, this has been amazing. Like, seriously, shout out to you, Dunn. I see you over there. Hey, I mean, I wasn't expecting this. I promise you I wasn't. But this is what we do at the Lions Den. But what I mean, not necessarily expecting this, was coming from an officer, an authentic leader. And I am a firm believer that positions does not equate to your effectiveness. So that's you.
And here, I want to drop this real quick. Who else should be out here other than when you start talking grade and officer, right? Mm-hmm. I'm a colonel. So essentially I'm like a chief, right? I'm at terminal grade for the most part. Unless something astronomical happens and somebody decides to put a star on me, I'm at terminal grade. What they gonna do? I'm a made man, and like in the mafia, what are they gonna do? They gonna make me retire? Okay. So I'm in a position to speak truth because, I'm as General Cotton and I talk about all the time, we circle in the drain, right?
Right.
We're about out of here. So I have the freedom to speak my mind in a lot of ways, because at the end of the day, I'm almost out of here. I'm trying to give back as much as I can and help young folks meet their goals as they go through this journey in the United States Air Force.
Honestly, there are individuals that I believe would be great for this, but I truly do believe the reason why they're so hesitant is because they're looking at their position and what it may look like to someone else, not necessarily the effectiveness as far as being on and being connected to individuals around the world. You get what I mean? And it's unfortunate because we're losing out on those Junes.
Yeah, I disagree. I think it has more to do with people having delusions of grandeur and thinking they're going to be a general officer. So they're not
like that for real.
Tell the truth or not?
Yeah. No. So a lot of people don't even know what it takes to be a general officer and what you have to do to be a general officer. And they're nowhere close to having the qualifications to be a general officer, but they think they're in the game. We kind of talked about privilege earlier, and that's part of the privilege. And then when you break it down to them and you say, hey, dude, you're not going to be no general, they feel some kind of way. And it's an emotional event for these folks. it is a significant emotional event for folks when they find out that they no longer have legs. Because you got to think about it. When you're a colonel, you top 1%. Everybody's told you throughout your career, you're the best, you're the best, you're the best. You've been number one. Now somebody says, okay, thank you.
That's humbling right there for a lot of people, I bet.
It breaks their heart. It's a significant emotional event. And how I know that is I used to work at the Colonels Group, and I was the force management and policy guy. So when we did SERVs, when we did force management programs, I was the guy on the phone talking to colonels about what their future looked like. And a lot of times, general officers don't give them the real because I think they feel like the folks are going to shut down if they feel like they no longer have a carrot to go after. But if you've been doing this for so long, it should be about leading airmen, about getting the best out of their potential and abilities, and making the Air Force better.
Period. Dot. Hey, Colonel, listen, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, and we want to make sure everybody, hey, if you guys have a question about the show, not about anything else, about dinner or nothing like that, if y'all got a question about the show, the Colonel or on the Lion's Den while he's here, take advantage of this series, because you may not have an opportunity this way and this authentic again. Hey, Herm, you had a question. Go ahead, brother.
I do. So, you know this as well, Seth, because you were services as well, right? So you'll understand what I'm about to ask. So, Colonel Reid, being a career services guy, you know how this career field has always been looked at. You know what I'm saying? Bottom of the totem pole, lower end, stuff like that. Low ASVAB score. You heard it all. What did you do? What was your mentality to keep those airmen motivated? And was the same energy needed to keep the officers motivated to perform their best inside this career field?
Okay, so I'll handle the officer piece first. At times, yes, it depended on the officer and what they wanted to do in their Air Force career. But people, I'll tell you a quick story. How much time do I have, Seth? Because I told you, y'all got me as long as you need me.
Go ahead, speak it. You got it. Go ahead.
So when I was going through the process, I went through OTS. So I didn't go through ROTC or the Air Force Academy. I went through OTS. And in that process, you had to go interview with the regional commander of the recruiting division. And she was a personnelist, obviously. And then I had on my dream sheet, I originally was trying to be a pilot, right? But they gave me an eye exam, and that 2040 didn't work out. So they said, hey, and the other part of it is I had a family to feed. So I was trying to get in the Air Force as fast as possible. And they said, well, they need services officers and logistics officers at that particular point in time. And I said, well, I'll be a services officer. So I go interview with the lieutenant colonel, and she said, oh, services. It was on my dream sheet. She was like, they don't get promoted out of there. You're gonna, and it was a sister. It was an African-American lieutenant colonel. She told me, she said, you don't want to do services. You're not gonna get promoted out of there. And lo and behold, I go to OTS and I get my career field and I get my dream sheet, and I got, not only did I get services, they sent me to Minot.
What? Ugh. Wait a minute. That's like a double whammy. What?
But you say that. But let me tell you, if you've got any young officers out there on here or enlisted folks that can mentor, senior NCOs that are mentoring young officers, the best thing that ever happened to me was going to Minot. Best thing happened. Why? Nobody wants to go up there.
It's easy to shine.
So I go up there. I'm a second lieutenant. By the time I leave 2 years, at the end of the 2 years I was up there, I was the CGO of the year in the services career field for ACC.
Wow. See there?
Second lieutenant.
Wow.
Okay.
That's grind right there.
So if I had gone to Langley, if I had gone to Scott or somewhere like that, I would have been pushed down, not given very many opportunities. But at Minot, because wasn't folks volunteering to go to Minot, wasn't folks trying to be overages at Minot, I had an opportunity to shine and get opportunity also, because a lot of what we do in our careers is about opportunity. So, but it's about blooming where you're planted from a career field perspective, because everybody gets caught up in the job. But when you're an officer in the Air Force, your number one competency is being a leader. Mm-hmm. And we tell young officers the wrong thing a lot of times. We say, go learn your job, be the best technician you can be. At the end of the day, really all I need to know is have some credibility amongst the airmen and be able to call the bullshit flag when somebody's trying to job me, right?
Right.
That's all I need as an officer. My job is to lead airmen in chaos. And I'll get to that in a minute too, deployments versus garrison leaders. There's difference there.
Wow.
So,
it is. It is. Damn. Okay. Oh, man. Go ahead.
So back to the enlisted folks and keeping them motivated. What you got to do is show them their worth. And I used to, and Herm set this question up because I used to say this all the time. Anytime we have commanders calls or we have gatherings and we were talking about what we did as a career field, I've asked my airmen all the time, have you ever deployed anywhere where the airmen, the pilots landed and they didn't have a place to lay their head and eat a hot meal, go to a fitness center and have rec programs? And they always tell me, sir, I've never experienced the opportunity or deployed or been in a deployed environment where we weren't there first. So I say, so if you have an insecurity about your piece of the mission, let us remove ourselves and see if they're going to ask for us or not. And let me tell you, 100% of the time, folks are trying to find services in a deployed location. So you have value and worth in what you do. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The other part of it is I show them, hey, you are in the business side of the Air Force. Out of all the career fields, you are learning to run businesses and operations if you look at it that way. If you look at yourself as just being on the grill, well, that's what you are, on the grill. But if you look at the bigger picture and say, oh, there's an opportunity for me to advance here and actually run a facility, a dining facility, and or a fitness center, and or a readiness team, then you realize, hey, there's some things I can do here in the Air Force. And at the end of the day, there's just as many services chiefs that there are logistics chiefs, proportionately, because those numbers are driven by the number of folks in that AFSC.
Wow, that's official. That's official. Man, hey, so look, ladies and gentlemen, this is your time. We're getting ready to end it on off. But hey, again, on behalf of the Lions Den and the crew, I want to say thank you. Thank you. This has been so real. So real. And boy, hey, listen, you know what? You said some things, brother. Hold on. Let me gather my thoughts. You said some things that individuals, I'm sure, always wanted to not just say, but also to hear, if that makes sense. Always wanted to hear, because it's that level of transparency that's buried under politics, and socialisms and different types of isms. So I do thank you for that. I do thank you for that. Got a question, last question. Do you mind doing a part 2 to this, brother?
Yes, I am. I will be honored to be back on the Lions Den. Anytime you guys need me, let me know. And we'll move it from the Wednesday, do a Sunday show, so I can be a part of just the whole conversation outside of just COVID-19.
Yes.
I love talking about leadership. I love talking about Air Force and airmen. But I'm multi-dimensional, so I can talk about a lot of things, as you probably can tell.
Right.
I have to get Herman straight on some things every once in a while. Like, I know, and I'm gonna let y'all go, but I gotta say something real quick, because I'm on my campaign right now, because everybody's on this Jordan thing. but Jordan, yes, is one of the greatest basketball players of all time.
One of them.
Go check the stats. Go check the
shit. Hold on. Who we about to say?
There you go.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Lord have mercy, Joe. Bruh. What are you doing?
If you on a playground and you got one pick on the playground and you got to pick teams, who you picking first? The 6'6" guy?
LeBron James.
Oh my God, man! I can't believe we just went there.
That's all I gotta say.
Okay, all right. You got the point. Goodness, great man! How you pull that out your pocket? I would never.
But long story short, guys, I thank you so much. This is an awesome opportunity to talk to folks. Hopefully, we can continue to help the Lions Den grow and get more folks out here. Knowledge is king. And I appreciate the opportunity, like I said, and you guys, I'm open to come on. I feel like I'm in great company. Y'all had Chief Wright on, who I've had opportunity to meet. I don't know if Chief Todd Simmons got on or not.
Yeah, he was
on. An advert for him. Mm-hmm. Great human being, great man, great story. Mm-hmm. When he tells his story, man, he said it at we had a resiliency event at one of our commanders' call. He came and spoke to our wing when he was over at Air University, and he literally, I cried because his reality was similar to mine growing up, and I took a lot of key nuggets from his talk. But to all you guys, I appreciate what you're doing, and I'm happy to come on. And if you guys are looking for more officers to come on, I got some folks that bring the fire also. So
right on.
We'll work it out.
Yeah, all right, most definitely. And so again, Colonel, we want to say thank you. Yes, we had Chief Master Sergeant on, we had Todd Simmons, and we had Rick Ross on. We was talking about crack. Yeah, so we had on the
I was Rick Ross, man. The real Rick Ross.
The real Rick. The real. And you know, and not just that though, brother. We also had, individuals within the community that's really getting it in and doing things, because we always focus on leadership, growth, and development. And there's so many different podcasts that's out there doing things, but they're doing things, but not doing this. You dig? Right. So that's what. Don't
forgive me when don't forgive me when
you know what, brother. Right? You know the funny part is we feel like we're already there, so you're welcome. You see, we're already there. Hey, so everybody that's watching live, I want to thank y'all for tuning in on behalf of the Lions Den. We thank y'all. We love y'all. Hey, everybody on this side, y'all stay on. But thank y'all for being on, and we will see y'all Sunday. Don't forget, share when y'all see the post and the advertisement. Make sure y'all share, because it's going to be live. All right, and we'll see you soon.
We hope you enjoyed today's show. Make sure to listen to the show on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, and Radio Public, where you can subscribe, or via RSS, so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you like or dislike this episode, we'd appreciate your feedback on Facebook at www.facebook.com/LionsCast. Check out the book, The Black Collar Mindset, The Art of Strategic Thinking, on Amazon, or www.theblackcollarmindset.com, a manual to maneuver through life strategically by holding yourself accountable. Tune in next week for another episode of The Lions Den with Seth.